Okay, so welcome to our course that is titled as Non-Killing and Peace in World's Religion. My name is Dr. Katyayani Singh, and I will be taking a very small portion of the course explaining the details about non-killing ideology as to what it stands for, how is it different from peace, the religious angle, that is the religious preachings which specifically focus on non-killing themes and themes relating to peace, that would be dealt with Professor Dr. Thomas Duffin, as he has an expertise in the religious studies. So, Professor Thomas, I would like you to introduce yourself.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Singh. So it's a pleasure to be here. I know India very well. It's a pleasure to teach this course with the Jagran Lake City University, and I think it's very good that you've set up the Center for Non-Killing Studies there. So congratulations. And the idea behind this course is to get more widely known thinking about how we can move towards a more peaceful society, and specifically a society that at least doesn't do deliberate targeted killings. There's always going to be death on the planet. We're not saying let's abolish death. That's part of life. We all get old and die, and we have accidents. There's always going to be volcanoes and earthquakes. I think this teaches humility. But if we're going to be mature human beings, civilized, well, then we should stop killing each other. This is the point. And also perhaps killing ourselves. That's another question, suicidology. So yes, my name is Dr. Duffin. I've been teaching peace studies, religious studies, philosophy, history of ideas for about 30 years. I've worked at the University of London. My PhD is from there, which is the largest university in the English-speaking world. I'm Canadian by birth, so I see things from a transnational perspective. I've traveled in 35 countries. I taught at the University of Oxford, which is, one of my other favorite universities, and I taught religious studies there. So I'm going to be drawing on 20, 30 years of studies and teaching in comparative religion for this course. It's an important part of the narrative of how we get a planet that is a non-killing planet. And I'll be sharing a bit more in the second half about that today. So thank you for inviting me anyway, Dr. Singh. And let's hear from you first about the scientific roots of what is the basis of a non-killing society.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, for your brief introduction. To start with the course, I will just try to acquaint the audience with the ideology of non-killing. For this, I have a brief PowerPoint presentation, which I'll be sharing on the screen. So just let me know, first of all, if the screen is visible to you, Thomas. I have not started it.
Not at the moment, no.
Yeah.
Yes, right. We can see it now. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going into the slideshow mode. It's zoomed in?
Yes, we can see it now. Fine.
Okay, so just to introduce the concept of non-killing, let's just go through the definition of the term non-killing itself. So it's a very short definition which says that non-killing denotes a society that is from local to global, in which there is no killing of humans, are no threats to kill, no weapons designed to kill, and no justification for using them. This ideology was first envisioned by Dr. Glenn D. Page in his seminal work known as the Non-Killing Global Political Science. And while developing his ideology, while developing this concept of non-killing, Glenn D. Page was guided by the World Health Organization Violence Prevention Alliance. So both the WHO and Dr. Glenn D. Page came to a similar finding that non-killing is a possible concept. And the term non-killing has also been used in the Charter for a World Without Violence, which was approved by the 8th World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates, Rome 2007. Now, coming to the possibilities of a non-killing society, we have tried to go through the possibilities of a non-killing society, whether it is possible to have a non-killing society or not. So there are two aspects. Some people claim that non-killing society is not possible at all. And the reasons that they give for this is the humans have a basic nature of killing. The humans by nature have tendency to kill. Reason being there is scarcity of resources in nature, which leads to competition, and for this, people start to kill each other. Apart from this, there are a lot of cases of sexual harassment, which also calls for the defender, especially, to kill the oppressor. And all these ideologies have also been propagated by the Western as well as the Eastern philosophers. That includes Plato, Aristotle, Cotillard, Machiavelli, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So all these philosophers in their philosophy have somewhere or the other given a concept, especially while talking about Thomas Hobbes. If you remember the very nature, while describing about human nature, Hobbes held a very pessimistic view of human beings, calling them nasty, brutish, and people who are solitary and cannot live in a civilized society. So, assuming that humans are competitive in nature and for the sake of survival, they are going to kill. Most of the political philosophers have actually accepted killing as a natural phenomenon. They do not say that, or they do not claim that killing is should not be done, because for them, in order to survive, in order to flourish well, one needs to get involved in such activities which involves not just killing but also threatening of communal peace as well. So similarly, Machiavelli has given a very famous statement, that is, end justifies means. So for him, if your end is ideal, if your end is good, your overall goal is something which can be said to be a just goal. So for a just cause, if there are killings taking place, then that is not a problem which one should focus upon. Because at the end of the day, what we will have would be justice. Now, on the basis of these philosophies, we can say there have been crusades, there have been killings, there have been wars in the name of religion, there have been wars in the name of establishing peace in the society. So all these wars, conflicts, why they were fought? In the name of peace. And herein, all these political philosophers have basically accepted violence and killing as a part of political philosophy. So they have not denied that physical violence should not be used. Similarly, more contemporary, we come to more modern political philosophers. We also have Karl Marx, who comes up to the same conclusion that if you want to change the society, there has to be a revolution. And in these revolutions, if there is any bloodshed involved, you need not fear it, because at the end of the day, you are going to have a society which would be classless society, which would be an egalitarian society. So at the end of the day, you are going to have peace in the society. So for the time, killings may be there, but after once the society, as according to them, has been established, there would be no such killing. Now the problem is that never has such or any such political philosophy been materialized to that extent that people could actually have perpetual peace, like Immanuel Kant explained. So, perpetual peace, the idea of peace and justice, which most of the philosophers have talked about in their philosophy, that never came. Rather, what we have witnessed in history and still are witnessing is a form of continuous struggle, continuous violence. It can be either amongst different classes or amongst different religions, sometimes between the state and the common people themselves. So, one can assume that when you go through political philosophers, we come to naturally accept violence as a part, as a daily, um, as a natural aspect of human nature. So this is one aspect wherein you can say that a non-killing society is not possible, because the history has not witnessed such a society ever. And owing to the political philosophy also, we do not, uh, we cannot contemplate for any such society. Now, now the other aspect, that is those people who believe that there is a possibility for a non-killing society. So they have their own arguments with regard to the possibility of having a non-killing society. So for justifying this, they have first of all claimed that the point which was being raised by the pessimistic thinkers, that scarcity, there is problem of scarcity and which calls for competition, because of which then there are violent conflicts, and it involves killing. So the proponents of non-killing school, they claim that the scarcity of resources in nature can be overcome by means of creativity and productivity. And with regard to problems of rape crimes or sexual harassment, these type of problems can be eliminated through means of education. So this is something which we can overcome. However, we have to use creative means to overcome these problems. Secondly, what has been claimed by the political philosophers about human nature, that by nature human beings are killers, as also advocated by the different political philosophers. Some of the scientific supporters have probed into this area with regard to human nature, whether it is an innate quality, whether human beings are born as killers, or there is something which brainwashes them, or there is some sort of training given to them, because of which the tendency to kill develops in them. So in this, we have the support of some scientific leaders, and there was a whole group of scientific philosophers from ranging from different disciplines who probed into this area, and they developed a statement that was known as the Civil Statement. This Civil Statement on violence was issued on May the 16th, 1986, and this involves specialists from the field of animal behavior, behavior genetics, biological anthropology, ethology, neurophysiology, physical anthropology, political psychology, psychiatry, psychobiology, psychology, social psychology, and even sociology. All these thinkers, all these scientists came to one common conclusion that killing is not a natural trait in the human beings. It's mm, okay. Are you not able to see the second next slide?
I think you have to click on the second PowerPoint to make it visible.
Okay, just a second. I have the.
We're still looking at the introduction.
Okay.
Like not even that. Yeah.
Can you see the slide now?
Yeah. Could you run through number 2 and 3 as well? Because we haven't seen those either.
Okay. This is number 1.
No, that's number 3.
Possibility of non-killing society, negative.
Yeah. Can we see number 2? You call that the introduction.
Can
The
you
one
see this?
before that.
After the introduction, possibility of just, okay, I'm just stopping the screen share and restarting it once more. Because there is some issue. Okay, can you see this? The second slide, possibility of a non-killing society, negative.
Yeah, we can see that now. Yes. Yeah. That's what you were talking about, the negatives. Yeah.
Yeah, the negative aspect.
Okay. And
So,
what was number 4?
Number 4 was the positive aspects.
Okay. And that's what you're on now. Okay, let's go
Yes,
on with that.
I'm on this now. So
Good.
I have completed explaining about the positive aspects also. That there has been scientific proof. Basically through this slide I was trying to explain that there has been scientific proof from different fields. Philosophers and scientists have come out on to this common conclusion that killing is not a natural trait in human beings. Rather, it has been developed slowly and strategically. How it has been developed, that is something which has been explained through the funnel of killing, which was introduced by Glenn Page himself. So, okay, just okay. Can you see this slide, the funnel of killing title?
Yes, but talk us through it because we can't. What does it mean?
Yeah. So now, before we actually run into what is non-killing and how to establish non-killing, we first need to identify, as political science students, we first are going to identify that what is the reason for all these killings to take place. And for this purpose, the funnel of killing was developed. So through this funnel of killing, basically, the reasons which make an individual commit crimes and make him a killer, make him or her a killer, has been dealt with. So this is the funnel. Can you see the diagram?
We can, yes.
Yeah. So this is the diagram which basically starts from, the most inner zone, that is the killing zone, is the final zone. And the most outer zone is the neurobiochemical capability zone. So an individual basically has to go through these 4 zones, that is the neurobiochemical capability zone, the structural reinforcement zone, the cultural conditioning zone, and the socialization zone. Once an individual has gone all through these four zones, then he finally enters into the zone of killing. That is, then he finally enters into that area wherein he actually commits the crime, wherein he actually starts killing the people. So in each zone, there is some sort of brainwashing, some sort of training provided to the individual slowly and gradually, which makes him to commit the crimes at the end of the day. So the first zone, that is the neurobiochemical capability zone, that is the most outermost zone. This is basically related to our brain neurons. That is, some people's like take for example the serial killers. Nobody trains them to be a killer, but their brain wiring sometimes is so mismatched that they commit serial killings. Nobody tells them how, or nobody teaches them to kill. Rather, they probably might be living in a positive atmosphere. Still, something is wrong with their chemical structure, with their brain wiring, that that make them as killers. So this is a zone which we can say that the neuroscientists can possibly study more deeply as to why some individuals, this is a very minor percentage of people who are serial killers, but the structural reinforcement zone is the zone actually wherein the society develops tools which make people who are not as killers to accept the philosophy of killing. This is the zone wherein you have socialization. I mean, yeah, wherein people learn to kill by training or by observation or models for emulation. So, yeah. So, what through all these zones, what I'm trying to focus, what we would be trying to focus on would be the cultural conditioning zone. Because the socialization zone is the zone wherein people are trained to kill. Cultural conditioning zone refers to that zone wherein there are religious scriptures, political philosophies, or some other form of narrative that culturally conditions human beings to accept the killings that happen around them. So as a result, what happens, they may themselves not be killers, but if people around them kill, if they happen to get involved in killing in the name of political philosophy or in name of religion, they give a silent consent to it. They do not raise their voice against it. Rather, there is a silent consent to the killing because there is some ideology associated with those killings. So that is the cultural conditioning zone. And I suppose in our course, this is the zone which we are going to focus upon more specifically. With reference to the structural reinforcement zone. This is basically providing you the means and materials to kill, because you may have been well trained enough to kill, you may have the ideology to kill, but then also you need the material, the sources, the arms and weapons to kill. So sometimes there are specific structures, specific bodies which actually develop those tools and provide it to the people so that it helps them to kill. So that's more related to, I think, the institutes, the organizations which are going for armament measures, which are involved in production of arms and weapons, possibly nuclear weapons also. So what happens here is that first there is your brain is conditioned to that sense wherein sometimes possibly there is a natural streak in your brain, and that is how you start to accept the killing. Then there are institutes, there are organizations in possession of the material which they can export to the people to perform the specific killing. Then there are ideologies, maybe political, maybe some religious ideologies operating around us, which which convince the people in mass, in large numbers, that yes, killings in the name of religion, killing in the name of peace, killing in the name of communism or capitalism, it stands justified. And then you have the socialization zone wherein you start learning to use all those arms and weapons. And then you have, at the end of the day, you finally have the killing zone where bloodshed takes place, that involves from cases from homicide to mass annihilation. So it is the zone wherein not just murders take place, but it is the zone also in which uh, mass killings, genocide, or religious killings also take place. So now what we want to focus here is that the cultural conditioning zone. So it has been widely believed that, and it is also my firm belief, that religions as such do not propagate for killing, whether it is Hindu religion, Muslim, Buddhist, Sikh, or Christian. There is no religion as such which specifically focus or advocate for killing the people. But the problem is there are certain institutions, certain political and religious leaders, socio-political religious leaders, who often advocate for killing and who often give out an open call for killing people in public to please their gods, to please their religious deities, and while showing their religious loyalties or political loyalties, people indulge in the practices to do so. So, what we need over here is that this has been identified that there has been a cultural conditioning to a great extent right now in the society, which has made a lot of people believe that killing for the sake of your God is justified. So, what we need to understand is, firstly, do those religious scriptures actually advocate for killing? If so, if there is any such religious scripture that is promoting these killings, should we still follow them, or should we try and change them? Secondly, is there any kind of misinterpretation being done by these authorities? Probably it can be that the religious scriptures mean something else. They are not advocating for killing, but the political leaders, the authorities are misinterpreting it, and also point and then spreading the message to the masses that all this involves that for all this we have to take the killings. So, Thomas, I'm on the slide of cultural conditioning zone. Are you able to see it?
Yes, yes.
So, what we want here is we want to learn about the positive aspect of every religion, as well as the negative practices of all the religions. So, we just don't have to learn about the positive aspects, but also what I believe we want to do is we want to unlearn those things which have been wrongly taught to us and which has brainwashed the mass on a large level to accept and as well as practice these killings. So from here onwards, basically, I want to understand what are those religious scriptures. Are there any particular specific religious scriptures that advocate for killing? If they do, do they identify any person as such? So that's basically, this is just the introductory part, and I would like to end with this slide.
What's the next couple of slides? Are you going to share them later? We've got the funnel of killing, and then what was the next one after that?
Basically, in the funnel of killing, that was just a diagram, and after the funnel of killing, each and every pointer was explained. That is, what does the neurobiochemical capability zone stands for? What does the socialization zone stand for? What is cultural conditioning zone? What is?
Can you show those? Do you know how to click forward? Just show them quickly.
Which slide can you see right now?
We can see the diagram, the funnel of killing one.
Okay, just okay. Can you see the slide, the killing zone?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, that explains the different categories. Yeah. Okay.
So I'll just read it out once more. The killing zone is the place of bloodshed from homicide to mass annihilation. Socialization zone is where people learn to kill directly by training vicariously or by observing models for emulation. Like sometimes, there are video games which are very brutal and which involve a lot of violence. So that's also like a form of learning process of killing. In the cultural conditioning zone, we are predisposed to accept killings as unavoidable and legitimate. Among the sources of conditioning, we have religion, political isms, capitalism, communism, Marxism, and all sort of isms, anarchism, celebration of triumphs and atrocities, family tradition, law, mass communication, and arts. So, like law also says that there should be capital punishment. And in the non-killing ideology, we criticize capital punishment as well, because that is something which, life is something which you can take but cannot give back. So, law may not always be perfect. So there will be chances wherein there is some error in law, and based on that, you have taken the life of an individual. So even law authorities, the state authorities are sometimes responsible for mass killings, which is uncalled for. Yeah, and then the structural reinforcement zone provides the socio-economic relationship, institution, and material means that predisposes to and supports the killing. So the structure, basically the structure and reinforcement zone, wherein there are institutions which are helping and supporting the killing activities. Neurobiochemical capability zone comprises of physical, neurological, and brain function factors and processes that contribute to human capacity for predatory or survival seeking lethality and for non-killing behavior. So this is relating to the brain functions, that sometimes there is some survival tendency in human mind, and for the sake of survival people start to kill. So that's a rare case, but possibly it starts from this first zone of neurobiochemical capability. This So basically, what the importance of this funnel is that we have identified these factors that they are responsible for killing. Now, what we need to do is we need to find an alternate to these things so that we can develop what is called as the non-killing zone. So, like we have the socialization zone where people learn to kill, we need to create a socialization zone wherein we can teach uh, people not to kill. We can, in the cultural conditioning zone, we can, what we are doing is develop ideologies and interpret the philosophies and religious scriptures properly so that we can educate the people of the ideology of non-killing and the importance of peace. Because why we are focusing on non-killing, I forgot to highlight that non-killing is something which Glenn D. Page said is a measurable goal. You cannot identify peace, you cannot measure peace specifically, but measuring of non-killing society is much more feasible because we can identify how many murders are taking place, how many capital punishments are there in the state, if there is any instance of genocide, uh, suicide, we can measure them in numbers. But peace is something which we cannot measure because peace has a wider definition. It stands for no violence by means of words, no violent thoughts in your mind. So, what happens in our mind and what we speak, this is something which we cannot control specifically. That is a very abstract thing. So what Glenn D. Page said was that first start with non-killing behavior. First try to at least control your behavior, that at least you do not kill the other person. And then gradually we can move to non-violence and then towards peace. Going for peace instantly probably will not be a good idea